Welcome to video number 3 tonight. I hope you're as excited as I am. This will be a short video, so let's get right to it. Writing a word phrase as an inequality. The directions say write the word sentence as an inequality and then solve the inequality. So number 9, -5 times a number is not less than 15. So the first thing we're going to do is go back and read it a second time. And of course I like to mark my text to help me write my inequality. So -5, I can stop right there and circle that and say, well, that's -5 times, I'll use my time symbol, a number, well, I don't know what that is, so we're going to use n. You can use x, you can use any variable you want to represent your number, is not less than 15. So I'm going to stop right there and say that keyword is, because following that will tell you the inequality symbol. So it says is not less than 15. So if it says it's not less than, well, it's got to be greater than, right? But then we have to think for a second. So it can't be less than. Could it be equal to? So is 15 less than 15? No, it's not. So I'm saying this inequality symbol is greater than or equal to, and then I'm going to say 15. So when I put this together, -5n is greater than or equal to 15. Of course, I solve it. I solve it by using inverse operations. My variable is multiplied by a -5, so I'm going to divide by a -5, and that leaves us with our variable n. And then I have those bells and whistles, ding, 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 woo, woo, and I'm going to reverse that inequality because I am dividing by a negative. Excuse me, and then I'm going to use my properties of inequality to divide the 15 by -5, and I would get -3, and my inequality is n less than or equal to -3 as the solution. Number 10, the quotient of a number and -4 is less than -1. So once again, marking my text, the quotient, I'm going to be dividing of a number. I'm going to use n, and -4, I'll just keep that, is, there's my key is word, less than, I know what that symbol is, and -1. So now I have to know how to write a quotient. And remember what we talked about in the past, that when it tells you you're going to have a quotient you're dividing, the very first number it gives you would be your dividend, and the second number is the divisor, so you would take n and divide by -4. I could also represent it n divided by -4 over here in that fashion if I wanted to. Is less than, so I'm going to put my less than symbol, -1. I can come over here and put it here as well. I'm only going to solve the first one though because I like this form. So now I'm going to say, hey, to solve that, I've got to multiply by a -4, and those will simplify out, giving me n, and then those bells and whistles, ding, 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 woo, woo. I've got to reverse that inequality to say greater than, and then I multiply the second side using my properties of inequality to say -4 times a -1 is +4, and I end up with my solution, n is greater than 4. Alrighty, moving right along to our real life application. It says an SUV averages 16.5 miles per gallon. The maximum average number of miles that can be driven on a full tank of gas is 363 miles. Write and solve an inequality that represents the number of gallons in a tank. So we know our answer has to be the number of gallons. I'm going to use X for my number of gallons in the tank. So that's what we're trying to find. Now let's use a little bit of thinking here, some conceptual understanding of how to get miles per gallon. You know, that's taken by the number of miles driven by the number of gallons used, and that equals miles per gallon. So having that conceptual understanding would help us a little bit in writing the proper inequality that we need to come up with. So it averages 16.5 miles per gallon. And it says, here's where we're going to get our inequality. We need that 16.5, by the way. It says the maximum, okay, well, what inequality represents maximum? So you might understand that that's less than or equal to. If you don't have that in your notes from our first lesson of the unit, you might want to put that in there. Maximum is less than or equal to. Average number of miles that can be driven on a tank is, there's my is, 363. So that means the maximum is we want to go less than or equal to 363. All right, so now it says, well, where are we going to put that? When we have this miles divided by gallons is miles per gallon, we then can say that the number of miles is equal to multiplying both sides by the number of gallons. Okay? Because miles per gallon is this way. If I multiply by gallons, they simplify out and leave us with miles. So when I multiply both sides by G, I have the miles equals the miles per gallon times the gallons. So we understand that we have the miles per gallon, that's right here, 16.5, and then we need to know the number of gallons, that is X. So 16.5X is less than or equal to 363. Now we have our inequality written, and we can then divide by that 16.5 to find out that the number of gallons is less than or equal to 22 in the tank. And we have to put gallons on there because this is a story problem and it does have units in the answer. It is a real life. It actually represents something, and so we've got to name that something. Less than or equal to 22 gallons in the tank for that car. Ladies and gentlemen, that ends this video. I told you it'd be fairly quick. We do not have a quick write on this one, so we're pretty much done. Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, that if you have any questions about solving these inequalities, especially the case 2, multiplying and dividing with that negative number, that you write those down and you bring them to class so we can revisit our notes and answer those questions for you. Take a quick look at your notes. Make sure you completed them with quality. And do you need to rewatch anything? If you do, go back and watch. Hey, remember, attitude and effort, they are everything. You ladies and gentlemen are absolutely fantastic. I am so honored to be working with you, and I cannot wait to revisit these notes with you tomorrow. I will see you then.